Well, hi there. I want to talk today a little bit about one of the theories that is in chapter 9 because you're going to get to do something with it. And for those of you who are visual learners, you're really going to like this. If you're not a visual learner, maybe you won't like it as much. I'm sorry. I just want to talk about it because I love this theory. I have found it to be pretty life-changing. And I've seen it be kind of life-changing to others as well. And that theory is the Johari window. I'll tell you up front, one of the reasons why I love the Johari window is because of its name. It sounds very theory-ish, doesn't it? The Johari window. But in fact, it's named just because of the people who created it, Joe and Harry. They combined their names, called it the Johari window. And it is a way for all of us to look at our relationships according to two elements: our levels of disclosure, what we're sharing with people, and our receptivity to feedback. How much are we willing to hear what other people have to say about us, about who we are, and how we function in the world? I think it's really a cool thing to take a look, and I have really found it very life-changing, as I've said. Sometimes I'm like, what is wrong with this relationship? What is happening here? And I have sat down and I have drawn our Johari windows, and I'm like, there it is. There it is. It's right in front of me. I could see either that I might be oversharing, or someone else might be very closed with me. There might not be equal levels of sharing. So let's get started and talk about what the 4 areas are. So like I said, it's a window, and you actually draw it to understand the levels of disclosure and the levels of feedback. And it is characterized with this very beautiful picture that I drew for you. You're so welcome. 4 areas: feedback, disclosure. The open window here is indicative of the things that are known to self and also known to others. Very nice. So these are the things that we're sharing, other people are receiving, and so on. Our blind area, however, are the things that are not known to us, but are known to others. And this is an interesting thing, but there are so many things that we don't know about ourselves. We don't know that we might, for instance, do a certain thing when we're upset, that we might act a certain way, that we have certain code words, and so on. Sometimes we have to seek feedback because we'll be like, well, what do you think about this? Or how do you think I'm handling this? We need to hear feedback from others. And if we aren't receptive to that feedback, then our blind area remains kind of huge. Okay. Then there are things that are known to self and not known to others, and that's our hidden area. And let's face it, it doesn't matter how close we are with our significant others or our parents or our siblings. There are always things that we keep hidden. There are thoughts and feelings. We can't possibly share everything. And then there are the areas of things that are not known to self and not known to others, and that has to do with our unknown areas. And I've had students ask me, well, what do you mean unknown areas? Like, what do I know that I don't know, right? So life experience shows us things. We don't know, for instance, what we'll be like when we're older. We don't know what it'd be like to go through a certain experience yet, perhaps loss, or how we would respond to certain life events. And those are the things that are unknown. So, like I said, you're actually going to draw it. And you are going to say who I am, who you are, to yourself in conjunction with another person. So for instance, your window might look like this in one relationship, characterized by the open window. In other words, you are very receptive to feedback in this relationship, and also you have a high level of disclosure. So you're very willing to share and to listen. And this can be characterized as a very healthy relationship. Even something that might look like it's not healthy could be healthy. So for instance, we might also have a window with certain people that's characterized by our blind spot. In this, we're sharing a lot, but we're not necessarily receptive. There is a place for this. Sometimes we are in relationship with people whose feedback we don't need in our lives. And they might not be our closest people, but if we choose to have them, it might be protective of us to be in relationship where, I don't need your feedback. I don't need to hear what you have to say about my choices, my responses, and so on. So our blind areas in those instances might dominate. Or our relationship might be characterized by the hidden window. So in this instance, we are seeking a lot of feedback, but we're not sharing a lot. And I'll tell you where this hopefully is the case, and that's in our work relationships. One of the challenges I think that many people have making the transition from being a young adult to an older adult is figuring out when in professional relationships they're oversharing. So it can be very healthy not to overshare. Sometimes we take, for instance, high school and college where there's all this like self-disclosure and all this awareness and sharing, and we take that into the workplace, and it's really not welcome there. So we have to know when to hold back, when to hold the cards and when to show them. And in the work relationship, this is often the case. People don't need to know all of our business. However, we do need to be very receptive to feedback so that we can become better at our jobs. Okay. Then there are windows that look like this, where they're characterized by the unknown. As we move, for instance, from being teenagers to young adults to older adults, perhaps some of our windows with our parents look like this. Our peer groups become more important to us. We don't necessarily seek the feedback of our parents. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just saying this is common. And we aren't necessarily sharing as much with them because we don't necessarily want to hear what they have to say. As a parent, I know this, and as someone who was once upon a time a child, I know this too. So you are choosing, right? So let's take a look at how this would look if you were actually to draw them together. So if I looked at myself and my sister Susan, my sister Susie and I have a very open relationship. We are both characterized next to one another by very open. Obviously, we still have hidden parts, and we don't need to hear each other's feedback about everything because we are our own people and our own adults. But we have very, very good communication, and we're very open. All right. Now, I also have a friend who it looks more like this. So this is a tricky friendship. This is someone with whom I have been really close in the past, but our values, the way we see the world has changed considerably. Also, she's not a good listener. And so she doesn't seek feedback from me at all, but she does share. Like every time I say something, she immediately answers with her own, example. And so I've learned my open window has gotten really small over the years. And really, there's a lot that I keep hidden because our values are different, because we see the world differently. I don't seek her feedback. And also I don't share a whole lot because I know it produces a lot of strife in our relationship. And the fact that she is not a good listener means she's not going to be receptive to my feedback. So I would say that this isn't a great relationship, but it's also not one that I necessarily want to end. I'm not very good at ending relationships. I don't know if you are, but I'm not very good at that. I value them highly. It's just that they change as we go along. And then, then there's like my dad. So this looks like it might not be a great relationship because we're both dominated by our unknowns. But you know what? We have a really good relationship. I share as much as I know he can handle. He's older. He's in his late 80s. He's point blank said, I don't want to know everything. And I love him to death, but he's not a good listener. So he's not going to get a lot of feedback from me. And he doesn't want to give me a lot of feedback. Over the years, whenever I've asked his advice, he's just basically shrugged and said, you got to do what you got to do. So we have a really good relationship in spite of our Johari windows. It doesn't look like we do, but we do. It's knowing the personality. It's knowing what you're bringing to the table. So with that, you are going to be evaluating 2 relationships, and you're going to be talking about, I'm not going to make you draw it necessarily, but I do encourage you to draw it on your own. And I want you to evaluate 2 relationships and kind of do a compare and contrast. What does your window and the other person's windows look like if you were to draw them? So draw them on your own. You can even, if you want to upload it, you can. That would be great. But you don't have to. It's just I'm interested in you saying, what it looks like and how you would characterize it and what does it mean? And does it help, to consider the levels of disclosure and the levels of receptivity to feedback in your own relationships? I think it does. I hope you do too.